Hello everyone, my name is Patricia Villafranca and the topic to my research project is education funding. Do you know how schools are funded? Schools are funded in two different ways, by their property taxes and by their state. Depending on the size of your property is the amount of taxes that you will have to pay. In addition, the state funds the school district an amount for each student. Although the state funds the schools, it doesn't mean that each school will receive the same amount of funds, as it depends on the location of the school. Furthermore, these funds aren't enough to get the low-income schools an equal amount of funds as compared to the high-income schools. Here we have a brief comparison of low-income towns and high-income towns. As we can see, under the low-income towns, that they receive less taxes, which contributes to less supplies, less resources, and a poor learning environment. For the high-income towns, we see that they receive more taxes, which contributes to better school supplies, more resources available, and a better, healthier environment for their students. In a more simplified version, let me show you what high-income schools have access to. They have new up-to-date textbooks and enough for each student to have a copy of their own. They have enough supplies available for each classroom. They have new computers that work appropriately and of course one for each student. They have access to tutors. They have large classrooms and they have clean, healthy learning environments. Here are the resources that low-income schools have to work with. They have old books that aren't up to date that must be shared among peers. They have old computers that hardly work that must also be shared. They have no access to tutors that can help them with classroom work. They have small classrooms. They have dirty learning environment, which most of them need maintenance. They have a limit in school supplies, and they have limited essentials such as napkins and toilet paper. Here on the bottom right, we have $11,000 as the average spent per year per student nationwide. We have $1,200 less received by the highest poverty districts. Lastly, we have $2,000 less received by districts servicing the largest numbers of students of color. Here we have the infrastructure report card conducted in the year 2017 of public schools in the United States. It showed that about 24% of all schools were said to be poor, that more than 30% of schools were classified under poor due to a type of maintenance that was needed. It demonstrated that numerous schools needed some type of renovations in outdoor facilities, such as bus lanes and in the athletic fields. Lastly, it concluded that more than half of schools needed to invest on renovations, repairs, and modernizations in order to be classified as a good condition. Here we have an image coming from the infrastructure report card that shows how 53% of schools need improvements in order to reach a good condition. Here we have an article titled Mice, Mold, and More, a look inside Arizona classrooms, which is based in Arizona from the year 2008 until 2015. During these years, the state lawmakers did cut funding per student by 36.6%. Due to the cut in funds, Arizona classrooms had old, torn bugs, rodent-infested classrooms, old, broken-down computers, limited amount of soaps and toilet paper, a limit in the time that air conditioners could be used, and poor maintenance buildings. Here are the experiences of two Arizona teachers. The teacher on the left mentions how students are not able to participate in any extracurricular activities, how classroom technology is extremely old, that it even has to be held together with duct tape. She also mentions how classrooms are frequently packed. On the right, we have a teacher of students with a variety of high needs. She mentions how she has had to be spending money out of her own pockets to purchase classroom supplies. Here on the left side, we have a bar graph, which are the results of a survey that was conducted to see how much money out of their own pocket teachers had to spend in order to buy a variety of classroom supplies. Here are two experiences that I collected from Westlaco East High School teachers. On the left, the teacher explained how there was a shortage of staff, such as custodians, which is the result of not very clean settings. She mentioned how there was not enough teachers, especially in the history department, resulting in larger classrooms. How there was a lack of resources and quality educational training. How textbooks and other supplies were limited, which was a result of why many of them were often teacher funded. On the right, we have another teacher who talked about a copy paper shortage, including copy counts. They mentioned how as a result of this, they would often ask their students to bring in paper to count as extra credit. What happened to the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015? This act promises an equal opportunity for students attending public schools despite of what their economic background is. Yet, why does the public school funding in the United States continue to be an issue? Allowing children to grow up in a divided society doesn't only show them the difference between the rich and the poor, but it shows them that they are not worthy of receiving an education experience inside of a nice classroom with new classroom supplies and resources to use. How can we address unequal school funding? We can stop relying on local property taxes to fund education. We can provide low-income schools with extra funds. We can fix the funding gaps between the low-income and high-income schools that are within the same district. Lastly, we can have states increase their education funding for public schools.